it's time for another 5-minute murder. And so we're actually on a Friday for once. I am getting ready to leave to go to Parasicon, which is in Mansfield, Ohio. It is at the Ohio State Reformatory. The Ohio State Reformatory is where they filmed The Shawshank Redemption. Great Stephen King movie. Originally titled Rita Hayworth and something. I don't remember the rest of the title. But anyway, great story. One of the classics. And it was filmed right here in Ohio. I'm going to take a bunch of pictures so you guys will be able to see it. Make sure you follow me on Facebook and all of that stuff, on TikTok. And I'll post a bunch of pictures of the Ohio State Reformatory. I'm going to be there doing a ghost hunt tonight, which will be fun. And then we'll be at it for the convention on Saturday and Sunday. So if you have time, make sure you come out and come and see us. It's always a good time. They're bigger and better than they've ever been. They've got more guests, more speakers, more vendors. They opened up a whole new wing to put vendors there, and you will actually get to go into the cell blocks. Some of the vendors will be in there, so you get to see the whole prison. It's a fantastic time. So come out and see us in Mansfield. Come and get your killer's love. But we are going to do a little bit of 5-minute murder now that I've already went on for 2 minutes about that. But we're going to pick a killer. And today we have probably my favorite killer, good old H.H. Holmes. So it says Herman Webster Mudgett was born May 16th, 1861, died on May 7th, 1896. He was an American serial killer. Despite his confession of 27 murders after the Peitzel trial, awaiting execution, he was convicted and sentenced to death for only one murder, that of his accomplice and business partner Benjamin Peitzel. It is speculated that he may have killed as many as 200 people. Victims were killed in a mixed-use building which he owned in Chicago, later known as the Murder Castle, right? Located about 3 miles west of the 1893 World's Fair, supposedly called the World's Fair Hotel. And it was actually the World's Columbian Exposition, is what it was called. Though evidence suggests the hotel portion was never truly open for business, he was executed on May 7th, 1896, 9 days before his 35th birthday. So, I want to show you my favorite piece of H.H. Holmes murderabilia that I own. This is, if you can see it, this is an actual ticket from the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893. The 1st of May to the 30th of October, 1893. Original with the serial numbers and everything on it. It is a ticket to that Columbian Exposition. A ticket to not only all the festivities there, but also the possibility of being taken into Holmes's murder castle, being gassed in one of the rooms and shot down the grease chutes. So Holmes is a fascinating case. You know, we're talking before the turn of the century, the turn of the 19th century, right? Is still in the 1800s, you know, just after the Civil War in 1861 through 1865, right? Just 30 years later, we now have this guy, this gentleman, this snake oil salesman, because Holmes was a conniver, man. He swindled people out of money. That's how he got all of his businesses. He owned many businesses. He had many wives, several of them, many of which disappeared. And so, you know, it's always very interesting with Holmes. He is the quintessential snake oil salesman, right? He did everything he could to swindle people. The murder castle was built. He was in court several times because people were suing him because they were not getting paid for the work that they had done. He would have them come in, tell them to do one room, fire them, and never pay them. He would get like furniture and stuff delivered, and then never pay the people that delivered it. It was just crazy. He would do anything he could to swindle people. He was a doctor, right? He went to medical school. He did get his degree, but he would use that for all kinds of nefarious purposes, right? He would then, dig up bodies, and or kill people and get their bodies. He would, take the skeletons, he would dissect them and take the skeletons and then sell those skeletons to medical schools, right? So many medical schools that have real skeletons, if they're old, could have possibly come from H.H. Holmes, right? And the work that he was doing. Now how he acquired these skeletons, sometimes through grave robbing, other times through killing people. But it's interesting to note with all of that, there is one overarching theme of H.H. Holmes. He did everything, and I mean everything that he did for financial gain, right? He was looking at money. He was trying to get as much money so he could continue to live the comfortable lifestyle that he lived. So he was then like scamming insurance companies, right? He would, hire people, his business partners, and he tried to do this with Peitzel. Eventually, it's why he killed Peitzel. But he would get them to say that they were, get them an insurance policy, and then they would mysteriously die or they would mysteriously disappear, and he would collect the insurance money. He tried to do it on himself. He did it to several business partners. He did it to his wives, right? He was scamming the insurance companies to get money to continue funding all of the business things that he was doing. When he was killing to fund his businesses. He was using it to sell those skeletons to get good money so that he can continue doing all the things that he was doing. There's all kinds of myths and legends that have grown up around H.H. Holmes, from the murder castle being a house of horrors, having rooms that were they had pipes in them so that he could gas people, that he had vats of acid, that he had in the basement a kiln where he could incinerate people. There is all kinds of stories, but the truth is that there was certainly some kind of elaborate methods that he was using to procure people and to get rid of them and dispose of them. Later on, of course, Peitzel ends up getting killed. Holmes does get convicted for that murder. But it's also found that Holmes more than likely also killed Peitzel's two children. One of them was found in a chimney, and the other one, I'm not sure where they found her right now. But anyway, he also killed the two kids. So ultimately, H.H. Holmes, not a very nice guy, would do anything to get money. Now, there's a whole bunch of things out there that have tried to connect H.H. Holmes with Jack the Ripper. And, first, we have no real evidence that H.H. Holmes ever left the United States. We also know that during the time that that Ripper was supposed to be killing in London, Holmes was here in Chicago voting in the election that year. So, could he have been Jack the Ripper? Probably not. And then there's two other big things to me that prove that he's not Jack the Ripper. Number one, his daughter was born in July of 1898, I believe. If she was born in July, she must have been conceived in October or November. That is exactly the same time that the Ripper murder started in, if you believe in the Canonical Five, there in London, in Whitechapel, right? So it's not possible that Holmes could be in the States, banging his wife, and conceiving a child and kill women in London at the same time. It's not possible. So, you know, also, the murder styles are completely different. Jack the Ripper was a frenzy killer, right? He killed, obviously, very passionately. Sometimes it seemed very angry. Uh, you know, whether you believe, and this is for a different time and a different story, if Jack the Ripper was a man, woman, we don't know. If he was a doctor, if he was a meat worker, you know, what do you call him? I can't think of the word for him right now. Anyway, you know, we don't know. We don't know anything about Jack the Ripper, really. But what we do know is those killing styles were completely different. Holmes killed for profit, strictly for profit, and Jack the Ripper seemed to kill because he had a grudge against these women that he didn't like for whatever reason. So it's very, very rare that you ever get a killer that kind of changes the way that they kill. And I believe that that's the case in this thing. If Holmes actually killed 200 plus people for financial gain, there's no way that he went to London and killed 5 women for fun, right? It's just, it doesn't follow the thought process of a killer. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't instruct someone to do that. And that's one of the theories, right? That maybe Holmes showed somebody what to do, and maybe that was their thing. And they went over to London and killed somebody. Now, that is completely possible. But I don't believe that it was Holmes himself that did it. On top of that, there is the theory that Holmes was not actually executed, and that Holmes was not the one that was placed in his grave. Now, recently, not recently, but I guess 10 or so years ago, they actually dug up the grave of Holmes. They found him buried exactly as he had asked, under 10 feet of concrete. There was a false coffin, and there was nothing in the false coffin. And then underneath of that, there was a second grave, and that's where they found the body and the remains of what they believe to be H.H. Holmes. Now, there are certain people out there that do not believe that that was Holmes. They believe that it was someone else that died in his place. Now, they did DNA testing, and they determined that the body in there was, in fact, related to the great-great-grandson of H.H. Holmes, which means that it was either Holmes or it was someone else in the family that was in that coffin, right? Someone that was related biologically. Now, there have been talks that the DNA reports were not correct, that they were fudged. My question to that is, and I don't know the answer to that, is in a 200-year-old case, or 110-year-old case, right? What motivation would a DNA researcher who has no attachment with this case at all and no real interest in caring if the body is Holmes or the body is someone else? It's also not the way that they do researching, right? They literally just send in, hey, here are the results, right? They do the testing, they send the results, and the people match the results. They don't always even know the names that are attached to it. And unless you're into true crime, most people don't know who Herman Webster Mudgett is anyway, right? Now, the people that are in true crime, he's a huge name, very popular, one of the first American serial killers, but people outside of that don't know who that was. So these lab analysts that are looking at this, what real motivation do they have to fudge the numbers? Or maybe were they fudged before they got to them? I don't know the answer to that. My suspicion is that they were not fudged, and that they were exactly what it was, and that H.H. Holmes was hung, and he was in that grave, and that's the end of the story. And if it's not, and he did survive somehow, Where's the evidence of that? Where did he go? What did he do? This is a guy that would not stop swindling people. So who did he swindle next? It's not like he didn't have a lifetime of doing that. How would he have ever faded away into history after his execution? So I think Holmes died there. I don't think he escaped his own death. I also don't think he was Jack the Ripper. But what you should do is you should check out my book that comes out July 2nd, Beyond the Headlines, because I talk even more about old H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper and 8 other killers through history. And it's part of a 3-part series. So check that out. And I will talk at you soon. Come and see me in Mansfield if you're in the area. And I will see you then. Until next time.
The number you have dialed is not available at present. Please leave your message after the beep.
Yeah, trendsetter. Whoa, league of my.
Without me, I said